So this is going to be a quick little video about how to start the Oslo stitch, which is named after the mitten in Oslo, but that isn't actually the stitch used in the mitten. I'm going to use this multicolor yarn to help you see which loops are which, but the yarn weight for the gauge of the size of my thumb here is going to be very thin. So this is going to be an open, loose fabric and not a nice, tight, dense fabric. If I want a tight, dense fabric, I want either a chunky yarn for this gauge, which is my thumb, or I want to use a smaller gauge, which I will show in a different video. So first I pinch between my thumb and my forefinger. I'm going to wrap down and around my thumb, in this case, to the left side of my tail, but you can also wrap to the right side of your tail if you have issues with keeping your loop. You pinch. I don't have any loops yet for this stitch, but I do have a cross, so I'm going to go under the cross, and I'm going to go under my thumb loop and my working thread. Now I'm going to show two different ways to work this. So one of them is with multiple thumb loops on your thumb. So you're going to pull down and towards you so that you form a new thumb loop, and you want that to form on the body side of the old thumb loop. So keep them in order. This is one, this is two, newest one, this is oldest, newest. Okay, now I have one loop on my thumb, no loops on the back yet, but for Oslo, I need this oldest thumb loop. So I'm going to pluck it off my thumb, thus coming thumb side out through that loop, over it, and under my cross. Some people twist, some people don't. Okay, come under my cross, which is my thumb loop and my working thread. I'm going to pinch and pull to form a new thumb loop. Again, I want this to form on the body side of my thumb, Then I'm going to pluck the oldest thumb loop off, so that I can come thumb side out through it and only it, not including any previous loops, over it and under my cross, which is my thumb loop and my working thread, pinch, drop, and pull, and you just keep repeating. So I would drop that loop, pick it up, thumb side out through it, over it, under my thumb loop and working thread, pinch, drop, and pull. Form the new thumb loop on the body side of my hand, and just continue. Pick it up, over it, under the cross, pinch, drop, and pull, form the new thumb loop. I do want to keep those thumb loops in the same position on my thumb and at the same tension, because that is my gauge and my tension, so I want to be able to feel them. I don't want it too tight because I have to pluck this one off. But one other way to work that is that when I plucked it off and come underneath my cross is to drop it off my thumb, pinch and pull and form a new thumb loop, and then just touch the tip of my thumb, come out through that old thumb loop, over it, and under my working thread, the loop around my thumb and my working thread, pull, touch tip of my thumb, take that last one over, and I can kind of drop it off my thumb as I pull through under my thumb loop and working thread. And I find that this runs just a smidge faster. But as you can see, it forms the same stitch structure in both working methods. This one's a little looser at the moment, but it's there. Forms exactly the same structure, either way of working. And as you can see, it's also very, very loose. So if I wanted this to be a proper fabric in this particular thickness of yarn, I would either double my yarn, actually probably triple it, or I would get an chunky, bulky yarn. Now, you can also, you don't have to work your thumb as a gauge. You can cinch it up by an eyeball and make sure you go under the loop that would have been around your thumb, over that inner one. So you'd be plucking it off the back of your thumb, and over it and under your working thread and across, putting those under the needle. So that's how it felt like, but you can see that you've got your needle under, over, coming back the other way, under, over, over. And you want it cinched down enough that it just kind of touches and lays at a nice angle on your needle. So you can do it by eye that way. I find it useful to leave this a little larger when I come through to make the stitch. And then pinch, drop, and pull it in. Tending to leave it a little bit larger here so that I can come under it. Over, under, over, over, and then I'm going to pull that down to where it sits nicely on my needle. Pull through. And I also want to keep my thread rotated because my stitch is spiraling and it's unspinning my yarn. So under, over, back out, under it, and over my my old loop and my thumb, my working thread. Can't talk today. And I'll show you how to start from working off of the thumb in a different video. I just wanted to show you that you can cinch down the row height by using an entirely different gauge, and see how that's much more of a stable piece of fabric. You don't want to pull it too tight because you do have to get your needle through there again for your next row. You've got to be able to take your connection stitches. If you get it too tight, you can't get your needle back through there. So you want it a little bit looser, especially in this first row. But see how different that gauge is than this gauge, which is the size of my thumb. And that's how the fabric can look different depending on the gauge and your yarn.